Welcome back to another podcast episode. I think this is number 5 or 6, I'm not too sure. But today's episode, I'm going to be covering why I stopped the functional movement systems that I was doing and why you should probably avoid and stop them too if you are doing them. And if you're looking at doing them or you follow some of them on Instagram, why I believe they are negative and the movement systems have a lot of holes in, and why it's just a bad approach to strength training in general. So, a recap from last week. I have found a bit more focus and clarity on exactly what I want to achieve coaching wise. I have gone back and forward now. As many of you know, I was a personal trainer. I didn't enjoy it. I said this in the first podcast episode. I was training general population, so I had men, women, old and young. I had a mix. I've had women, 40s, 50s, and as young as in their teens or late teens, and I've had guys in their teens as young as 14, and then guys as old as 60 odd years old, 70 odd years old. So I've had a big variety in the past. I had ones I enjoyed, ones I least enjoyed. Now, I enjoyed men more than women in general, just because there would be less chat as much. Not so much the chatting, it was more just like the women needed more emotional support outside of the coaching, rather than the actual training itself. So it wasn't my cup of tea. Not like it was a bad thing. I think a lot of them needed someone like Jenny to talk them through trauma and past issues and eating issues and more of the spirituality side of training and life to kind of get them into the gym a bit more. Whereas some of the men were just more of, I want to get fit, I want to get strong, I want to lose weight and stop eating so much crap. And it was more about that. Now, there was obviously, I had a footballer once, and that was great because he was just wanting to train, improve his strength and conditioning. And I enjoyed that more because he wanted to come in and train. It wasn't so much of like motivating him to go to the gym. I don't mind that as much with guys because there's always a way of getting guys to get in the gym. I feel like every guy has a hidden potential for strength training and getting healthy. It's just to unlock it. That's what the hard part. But athletes in general, I like, or at least guys that are in the gym or athletic and they just want more coaching experience or coaching training or one-to-one coaching. I enjoy that a bit more. So yeah, I'm gonna niche down a bit more as I go. I'm obviously underqualified in terms of I haven't coached many athletes, or I don't want to be niche down to athletes, but at least like hobbyists, so people that do a sport, especially combat sports, because I do them. I do jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, so I like this idea of training guys that do these sports even as a hobby and they have a job or career, but they just want to get better at the sport, even just helping them with issues that they might arise when they do boxing or jiu-jitsu, for example, and strength and conditioning, especially the foundational stuff that I've been working towards. I've been doing a lot of learning, bought some more courses that I'm working through that focus more on the breathing side, fixing your rib cage, pelvis alignment, reducing stress, control of your vagus nerve, and just the original kind of route I wanted to go down. Anyway, I just hadn't found it yet. I was searching for ideas, and this is where we got onto functional movement patterns. So what are functional movement patterns and what are these systems? So you may have heard of GOTA, functional patterns, I think PRI may be one as well. I'm not so clued up on them, but there's a few of them, one of a kind as well, OKF, and there's a few others as well, and systems in general. So ATG doesn't really follow this kind of the view that these other functional patterns and GOTA and stuff go by, but I still kind of group them together because it's a system, and I'll tell you why. So they basically follow different philosophies on training. So functional patterns, they follow a lot of the sling type of thing. So a lot of their exercises are holding a bar with a cable attachment to the top, and they kind of do exercises, and it's to create tension on the front of the body when they move. There's obviously much more to it. GOAT follow. GOAT stands for greatest of all time athletes. I believe that's what it stands for. So they look at still shots of Michael Jordan and high level athletes, and also other high level athletes that get injured. They'll look at their movement patterns and say, well, this caused them their injury, this is the way they move. So we've created a system that follows spirals and all this kind of thing. Now they all have different philosophies of the movement pattern itself. So a lot of them will talk about the spinal engine theory. So Google that if you're not sure what that is. But basically it's a theory about how we move and how the body moves through space. Now they see it as, well, this is how our body moves, so we'll train that. Some of them, like OKF, will say, well, that's a byproduct of your training. So we'll train the byproducts, and then we'll train the attributes, and that will create the byproducts, whatever the philosophy is. They all see movement as some of them see it as autonomous, some of them don't see it as autonomous. Some of them see training the actual movements that you see at a high pace. So they'll see a sprinter doing a certain movement in high pace, and they'll train that movement. So then when they sprint, that becomes automatic. Some of them train the byproduct, so they'll train to like 90 degrees, but they won't go into deep ranges. They don't like deep squats. Different things. They all have different approaches, different philosophies, but they all follow the same approach, and there's a lot of back and forth between them. There's a lot of aggression and negativity surrounding them, and it's quite toxic, let's just say this. So I was doing ATG. Now this was back in 2019, so this is before the pandemic. This is when I just got into strength and conditioning. As I've said, I was in a lot of pain in my body, and I went down the route of ATG because it was a mixture of end range strength and following a system and knees over toes, and it had some philosophies and approaches. Now I'm not saying all the exercises are bad, because they're not. Some of the exercises are good. A lot of the exercises are good, but there's more than 20 exercises. They had like a 20 exercise list, and they had standards. So if you met the standard of all of them, you should be pain free. Now I met the standards, and I was in a lot of pain. I was in worse pain than when I started. And when I said people, I had a back and forth with them about my issues. Now I had conversations with other high level coaches that were part of ATG, or at least associated. They couldn't really figure it out. I didn't disrespect them because of it. I still saw them as great coaches. I just didn't see it as their domain. They had clients that learned to do the front splits, and all their pain went away. That's cool. I was, a couple inches off the floor in my front splits with my left leg forward, but my knees were in more, I was in agony after doing the front split session. So I was like, why is this the case? Oh, you need to do this exercise. And I would do it, and I'd be like, okay, that feels good, but do I have to do that exercise every day to feel good after? Or like, what's the issue? Why am I in this pain? So that's when I went down the functional patterns route, and I obviously saw all the stuff about gait training and training your gait pattern and how to improve your running mechanics, because I thought, well, the thing we do more than anything is walking. So if you're in pain walking, you fix that, everything else will be easier. And that's their philosophy and their approach. Now I looked at GOAT, I didn't really like it. I saw some holes in it, and I thought, no, that's not the one. Breathing mechanics I wasn't too keen on. I didn't like Naudi, I think it's Naudi, the guy who owns it. I didn't like I saw his Instagram, I followed his Instagram for a bit, and I just thought this guy's horrendous, like, just who he is as a person. Now, just because someone's a certain way as a person doesn't mean they're a bad coach, and just because they're a good person doesn't mean they're a good coach. So I had to do more research and looked and found One of a Kind Fitness. So this was Devin. Now, I respect him. I don't think he's a bad person, but I was doing his training for a while, and there were some holes I felt, and I just felt miserable. Let's just say this. I was doing the training. Jenny was doing the training. I thought, this is it. We'll figure it out. We'll get through it. I was doing one-to-one sessions, doing the program, and I just felt like I was doing these basic bodyweight exercises for so long, and everything had to do it in front of the mirror, and I was in the house, and I remember being like, right, okay, tomorrow I've just got to do this training session, get through it, 45 minutes. I'd plan out like how long it was going to take, and I was like, right, 1 hour and I'll be finished. So I wasn't enjoying the training, I just wanted to get it done. I then started going to, Tuesday nights was a 90-minute wrestling class, 90-minute jiu-jitsu class. Now, I would do both classes, and I woke up on the Wednesday morning, and I was in so much pain getting out of bed. My knees, walking up the stairs was just like rough, really rough. This was at the end of last year, start of this year. Now, because of this, I wanted to make some changes, and just before starting his sessions, I found some guys I'd followed for a while on Instagram, and I'd obviously followed them for a reason because I liked some of their stuff, but I just didn't understand it. And I got their free courses, and I did the free courses, and I still remember the day we went to see some in-laws, and the whole day I was just thinking about how good I felt, and how like it was almost like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Like I felt stress free. I felt really clear on my thoughts. I just felt loose and pain free, and I thought, this is weird. I only did some kind of exercises where I'm sitting on a chair and breathing things, and I didn't really do that much, and I feel incredible. And I wasn't doing any strength training exercises that were functional patterns or movement based or GOAT or anything like that. I wasn't doing any of this training stuff. I was just doing breathing exercises and fixing some internal issues, and I felt the best I'd ever felt, and I thought, this is strange. So eventually I stopped the OKF sessions, and I deep dived more into the MoveMed style and flow ups and these guys, and David Gray as well. He's really good, and this is more sensory based. I didn't have to do it in a mirror. So the problem was with a lot of these exercises, you had to look a certain way doing them. Like you had to, if something was out of place, if your hips were across or whatever, you couldn't feel it necessarily when you're doing it, because they would say that your body is twisted all these ways because of how your lifestyle is, and they want like symmetry and things like that. Now the body isn't symmetrical as the body itself. Now more of our organs are on one side than the other. People tend to have a lot of the same issues with how they look, because of our body's just not symmetric. It's not 50% body weight on one side, 50% on the other. It's not how the human body is. But they treated it like it was that way, and that I felt like was causing some issues for me. So I went down this other route, found clarity, found amazing. Now I'm pain-free, completely pain-free. And I have been for months. I've not had any niggles. Now, this has meaning that this has meant I can go back into strength training, regular strength training, deadlifts, squats, bench press, with zero pain. Now, does this mean that you can do strength training and be okay pain-free? Absolutely. But you have to fix your foundations. And this is what these guys push. So they push fixing your foundations. So, for example, I've posted about this week. Our first conscious motor function that we learn as our first conscious one as a human being is to breastfeed. Now, breastfeeding is before we crawl. So the action of creating suction through the mouth and breathing through the nose is something we learn through breastfeeding. Now, that is our first conscious motor function event that takes place in our body. Now, the movement people would say crawling is the first step to walking, which now I believe is wrong, because there's a prerequisite to that, which is our breathing. Now, breathing is absolutely essential. Now, if you're breathing incorrectly, your breathing mechanics are bad. You can't expand your rib cage, but you just flare the ribs. Your pelvis is out of whack. You can't create tension in the body, and everything's out of whack. This could be due to your breathing techniques. Now, when I was doing breathing work within the functional movement stuff I was doing, they were getting me to breathe deep down into my belly and expand upwards, and when I was doing it, I didn't understand why. I just thought they knew what they were doing. Now, looking back, the breathing techniques were terrible. Now, I would not get someone to breathe like that and do these weird exercises and create lateral tension and all this kind of thing. I don't believe that's the way. Now, I do believe if you fix your foundations, you'll be in the place to strength train however you like. No exercise is bad. If you feel amazing doing a strength exercise, continue doing it because it's good for you and it's strength training. So that's good for you. Now, why would you stop strength training to do these movement systems when you can fix your foundations and do any strength training you like? Any combat sport or any other sport, football, rugby, tennis, cricket, boxing, karate, whatever it is, even if you're just a regular Joe and you have your foundations in play, you don't have to do as much strength training. You could train full body twice a week, go for a run once a week, have your foundations in check, breathing patterns correct, fix your midline stability, get your rib cage and pelvis aligned, reduce stress, it reduces anxiety, all these things that benefit from fixing your breathing patterns and how you breathe. And your pain tolerance goes up, you reduce inflammation in the body. This is everything I wanted, and I'm so glad I found these things. Now I'm obviously investing time into learning so I can coach other people on them. So that's my goal, is to incorporate these techniques with other rehab and prehab techniques that I've learned for athletes obviously coming back from injury, and then pair that with regular strength training, cardio, and their sport specific work that they do. And then you can train happy and have a happy life, because strength training makes me happy. Lifting weights makes me happy. Doing the movement systems made me very unhappy, and really unhappy. So there's nothing worse than doing an hour strength training that you absolutely despise because you think it's the right thing to do and you're doing all these things, and also you don't build much muscle, you get really weak. The guys, no offense, but a lot of these guys are out of shape. A lot of them are fat, for starters. A lot of them guys are overweight, but they're coaches and this movement stuff. And I don't know. I want someone that's in shape. And a lot of the guys were really skinny or fat, or just didn't have much muscle on them, or just didn't seem like they were very strong. And they were like, deadlifts are bad, squats are bad, this is bad. I didn't like that approach to training, and I thought it was quite toxic. So to wrap things up, if you're thinking about joining any of these functional groups, don't. Now, HEG and stuff have good exercises, don't get me wrong, they've got some good exercises, and I think Ben Patrick's chilled out on the pros of some of these exercises, such as like tib raises, and how it can cure everything in the body, or your knees pain and things will disappear through doing hundreds of tib raises. And I think they've woken up to the fact that there's so much other options out there. There's more than one way to skin a cat, let's just say that. Now, I believe now that breathing is such an important aspect of training, and if you breathe incorrectly and poorly, your strength training you won't get the benefits out of strength training that you're looking for. And this will lead down the road to problems and compensations in the body, pain, and just you just lose that ability to move freely because you're constantly thinking about, well, I need to keep this up, and the arch and the curvature of my leg and the twist, all these things that they train into you religiously. And one philosophy is the complete opposite of the other group's philosophy. So they attack each other online religiously, and they put digs about this guy and they put digs about that guy, and they attack this guy and mine's better than yours. And I'm just like, oh my god, imagine just having your foundations down and training whatever strength training feels good, pain-free and happy and stress-free. That's the main thing I wanted, was reduction of stress, reduction of pain, and being able to strength train. So this is what you'll get from fixing up your foundations and improving your relationship to strength exercises, because for a long time I was demonizing all these exercises that I absolutely loved doing because I thought that these are terrible and bad and it's going to destroy my body, even though I felt worse than when I was doing these things. Well, actually, when I was strength training originally, I felt terrible anyway because my foundations were so poor. So now I've improved my foundations. I'm strength training pain-free. Deadlifts and things feel amazing. So if you're thinking about going down these routes, message me. I'll speak to you. I'll talk to you about why I think it's a bad idea. and I'll point you in the direction of coaches that are better than me that I'm learning from, so you can go and take their advice and listen to their things. And they've all got free courses and things you can do anyway, so you can try the things out, see how you feel. It's sensory based, it's feeling based. You don't need to sit in the mirror and make sure your knees and things are a certain way, or you're not twisting a certain way. It's very much, just make sure your head's in this position, or it's getting out of bad habits. So a lot of people have their shoulders pinned back, or they've extended, they're stuck in these bad postural positions, and it can be based due to your breathing. I've not done any ab work necessarily. I've done sensory-based breathing exercises, and my pelvis and rib cage is better than it's ever been. I had a horrible anterior pelvic tilt, which caused a lot of knee pain, back pain, hip popping and clicking and pinching. And it's not perfect by any means. I've still got a lack of internal rotation in my hips, partly because of the issues I had as a kid. It will never get amazingly well, but it's improving far more than I was at the start. And people that haven't got any issues and do these movement pattern stuff. And yeah, if you want to be big and strong and powerful, that's not the route to go down personally. So message me, and I'll send you some guys that you can go and do some research on and have a look at their free stuff and see how you feel. But if you are considering going down a one-to-one coaching route with myself, send me a message. I can put a link in my description. There is one in my Instagram description at the Jack Miller, and you can book a call today and start fixing issues in your body, strength training pain-free, fixing your lifestyle habits, and becoming a more well-rounded, athletic human being. So thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Trying to keep them about 20 minutes roughly. In the future, obviously, when I've got multiple cameras and things, ideally, I'll be able to get some guests on and talk about various subjects. I'm keeping the podcast open to different subjects because I enjoy talking about different things, not just strength training and combat sports, but like news and all sorts of things. So this weekend there's some fights coming up. What I'll do is I'll make some predictions, because then I've got it on camera so nobody can say that I was lying. But I don't usually do very well in predictions, so we'll see how it goes. I believe UFC 304 is in Manchester. So I have already made predictions with a friend. We always make predictions. My old client, Christian. Shout out to Christian. So I'll work up the bottom of the main card to the top, and then we'll finish the podcast here. So we have first, I believe there was a fight. Mohammed Makayev, I believe, was fighting Kappa, I think his name is. So I think that was a number one contender fight, or at least, yeah. So that's obviously bumped down to early prelims, so I don't know what happened there. But we'll start off with the first fight. Arnold Allen, Giga Chikadze. Now, I believe Arnold Allen should get the win. Giga Chikadze, I believe, was injured. I think he pulled his groin. I think there's actually video of him pulling his groin. So, coming back from injury, he also had a long break before that. So, Arnold Allen, I think he lost his last fight to Imavov, I believe his name is. And then Max Holloway before, so he's on a 2-fight losing streak. So I'm going to say Arnold Allen. I like Arnold Allen too. Christian Leroy Duncan and Gregory Rodriguez. I'm going to go with Leroy Duncan. I quite like him. He's quite good. He's quite flashy, but yeah, I'm going to go with him for the next fight. And then after that, next fight is Bobby Green and Paddy Pimblett. I think Bobby Green's now King Green. So we'll leave that there. There's a tough fight for Paddy. I think it's his hardest fight so far. But I think Paddy could... He's got good jiu-jitsu. So getting Bobby Green down is going to be the hardest part. But he has had 2 kids recently, and there's a whole thing about dad power. I know he's already got a child before that, but I feel like the dad energy is just going to boost him along. So I think Paddy with via some sort of submission in the later rounds, I believe. Now, the 2 next fights, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades I've liked Curtis Blades for years. I really like the guy. I think he's really nice. But Tom Aspinall is a great fighter, and I think since his injury, we were actually at his his first fight with Curtis Blades. So that was in about 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago, in London, and yeah, the fight was like 15 seconds long, and obviously he injured himself. So I'm hoping Tom gets a win. I believe he'll finish Curtis Blades. I think he's just on another level, and I think this is the most important fight of his career, obviously, for both of them. But I can't see Tom losing, so I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall via TKO, probably in the first couple of rounds, because Tom I think he's got the shortest UFC fight time. It's like 2 minutes or something like that. So his fights don't last long on average. And the main event, Leon Edwards against Belal Muhammad. So Leon, I don't think I've ever celebrated a fighter winning a fight as much as I did when he won his second fight against Kamaru Usman, the title winning fight. And yeah, it was like a minute left of the fight, and I was like, oh no. He had such a good first round as well. Took down Kamaru, and then he got battered for 3 rounds. Obviously, it was Salt Lake City, so I think the elevation may have had a part to play. But this is got decision written all over it, hasn't it? Both of them go to a lot of decisions. But yeah, I really want Leon to win. There's no doubt about that. I think I've picked pretty much all the British fighters. I think Christian Leo Duncan is British. I don't know if he's... Some of them, like Leon, kind of half British, half Jamaican. So I'm going to go to Leon Edwards. Belal's good, but based off the first fight, Leon was doing quite well. I'm hoping there's a finish, because realistically, if it goes to a decision, people are not going to want Leon to be champ very much longer. And yeah, he obviously beat Kobe by decision, Kamaru by decision the second time, or the third time, and then he got a last minute knockout in the title winning fight. So I'm gonna go with Leon Edwards. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna say he finishes Belal, because he's taller than him. He's very good at using his range. He's longer. He's got good kicks, and if he doesn't poke him in the eye, I believe he'll knock him out. So that's my picks for the main event. Leon Edwards, Tom Aspinall, Paddy, Christian, and Arnold Allen. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I'll check in next week and see how badly I did with those picks. So if you've got any questions, shoot me a message on Instagram and I'll get back to you about any movement system stuff or anything else. And yeah, if you're thinking about joining a movement system or following a specific movement functional pattern system thing, please don't. There's other options out there that you can do, and you can do any strength training you like. See you next time.